Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Zoom Into Books author presentation sponsored by Headline Books. Today, we are chatting with brand new Headline Books author Kraig Kann, who will be discussing his new book, Can You Get Our Attention? So a little bit about our speaker today. As former lead anchor and studio host for NBC Sports Golf Channel, Kraig Kann achieved a lifelong dream. He then progressed to Chief Communications Officer for the LPGA, and today is a requested speaker, branding consultant, presentation coach, and successful entrepreneur, mastering his own brand and empowering others to do the same. With Can You Get Our Attention, Kraig shares his years of experience to help readers understand the value and importance of standing out and building a loyal following. With proven strategies and trusted and tested examples, you'll learn to embrace his empowering philosophy on the critical importance of how you present you. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce Kraig Kann. If you all have questions for him, please type them into the chat section underneath this video, and we will get to as many as possible. Welcome, Kraig. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, it's a thrill. Thanks so much for having me, Ashley. And, I'm really excited about this, to say the least. It's been 2 years. I mean, I was thinking about that the other day. It was January of 2019 that I actually talked to my agent at the time, and we were discussing what do we want to do? I had this whole book concept, and I didn't really know how to go about it. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to talk to some people about it. I thought I had some interesting stories to tell, and I thought I had some great experiences that could help other people. And so my whole goal was to put that into writing and hopefully give people something that would help them. That's the goal, right? I mean, it's in the end, yeah, it's got my name on it. And by the way, today, Ashley, the book showed up on my front door. Okay.
Right,
so
on
that's
time.
cool. Right on time. Today was the launch day, the 19th of January. So the books came. So I've already opened up one of the boxes so I could hold up a couple of books, which was a really exciting thing. But back 2 years ago, I have to admit, we sent out pitches and we talked to some various publishers, and I got far more interest than I even thought, because you don't really know who's going to be interested in your vision or your concept or the ideas that you have or the experience, or do they think enough of you to warrant aligning their brand with you or your brand. And so in the end, I mean, truth be told, there were 8 that were excited about it. And we talked, my agent and I, about which ones we wanted to kind of interview. And lo and behold, we ended up with Headline Books. And I couldn't be happier with that. I mean, I'm so fortunate for Kathy's expertise and everything that she's taught me. As much as my career might sound interesting, being an author is a whole different deal. I've learned so much in 2 years' time about the process and writing it. And people have asked me, did you have a process that you did every day? What did you do? Did you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Did you write at night? Did you write an hour in the afternoon? And my answer was yes, 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 and yes. And life gets in the way as well. So there were even a couple of months I didn't write, but here it is, and to have this book, when I opened the box today and kind of look at it and thumb through it, I have to be honest, it's a bit surreal. It's flattering, it's humbling, and I'm really proud of the end result.
Well, it's a beautiful book. And, like we said, the release date is today, so it's now available online. If any of you have interest in purchasing the book today, there are links for that in the comments section underneath this video as well. So again, congratulations, Kraig. This
Thanks.
is an amazing achievement. We're super excited to have you as part of the Headline Books family. And, in light of COVID, we can't do any in-person events, but,
yeah.
Going forward, we hope that we're able to do even more with this book. So I know that everybody listening, they love to hear origin stories and the story behind the book. So we'd love it if you would get started by just chatting a little bit about your inspiration, how this started. And then, of course, like you were saying, we'd love to hear about your writing habits. Did you write at 3 a.m.? Did you write at 7 p.m.? So
Yeah.
Any details that you could provide us about the making of the story would be fantastic.
Well, this is one of those questions, and I consider myself somebody who's interviewed a few people in my lifetime that I could go in a million different directions. But I'll say this. When I was a kid, and I talk about this in the book, when I was a kid, I used to go to the library in suburban Chicago quite a bit, and I'd check out 3-4 books at a time. And I don't know if you probably never heard of Henry Huggins and, like all these little books and the kids' books. And I would check them out and I would read them. And when I was in high school, maybe even a little bit younger, I went to this camp. It was 2 weeks, and they asked us to write down our goals by the time we were 30. And so I wrote down what my goals were. At that time, writing a book wasn't my goal, but when I was laying on my bed when I was a young kid, I always thought about what it would be like to write a book someday. And then as I got older through my career, I started thinking, some of these experiences that I've had and the proof that your career, no matter how much you think it's going to go in a straight line, it just never really does. I thought that actually could really help serve some people. And so my goal before I turned 50 was to write a book. Now, I didn't make it because I'm just a little north of 50, but I'm pretty close. And I really wanted to do something that I felt like would add value to people. I didn't want to just tell stories. I didn't want to just tell people, hey, look at me, or here's my journey and all of that stuff. I wanted to talk about things that I experienced, some of the successes that I was a part of, and some of the failures that I was a part of, and that the mistakes I made as well, and show people that, you could do what you set out to do as well. And this book to me is actually proof that some of the greatest achievements we have in our lifetime actually come from outside of our comfort zone. Because I can tell you right now, as much as I, write about things in here that are about me and the experiences I've had, you really do have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you start seeing your life in print or your career in print, and you start thinking, wow, this is interesting stuff. This is, I'm sharing quite a bit here. I'm pretty transparent and all of that. So the origin of the book is really, I wanted to take the things that I've done in my career and how I can help other people with it. So I know that when I left the Golf Channel in 2016, and I'll get into my career in a minute. 2011. In 2011, I left the Golf Channel after 17 years, and I went to the LPGA to be the chief communications officer. And those two experiences that I had there really gave me a lot for what I'm doing right now, which is traveling the country speaking, which is doing leadership communication workshops, which is helping people learn to tell their story or build their brand or promote awareness for what they do, that whether it be their product or themselves or their company. I just felt like I had a lot to be able to offer to people. And I wanted to have something that would supplement the work that I do when I do my workshops. And that's what this really is. And so when I'm in front of 15 people or 20 people in my 8-hour workshop, or if I'm in front of 200 or 500 in a keynote, to be able to have this in the back of the room, or for people to also look at and go, yeah, he talked about that. It's a reminder, or I get to know him a little bit better. That to me is what it's all about. And this is true. And Kathy knows this. I did not write this book to get rich. I don't know that many people, not named Tom Clancy or some of the other famous authors out there, write books to get rich. I wrote this book to give people something that they would feel was a valuable tool to them. And I wrote it for me to be able to offer something else and maybe get rich, if you will, with opportunities to share my message. That was the purpose.
That's excellent. And we do have Kathy on with us today, which is great. So we can have discussion about, the publishing aspect of this process as well. And, you said that this has been a learning experience for you. So you're kind of living the idea in your book, you're changing, you're learning and trying to, present your best self.
Yep.
So in light of the current situation in the world with the pandemic,
yeah.
Has that affected your work at all, or has it helped? Has it hurt?
That's a good question. I'm going to say yes to all of those. So I know that last March, I also work for SiriusXM and host shows on the PGA Tour channel. And I was at the Players Championship, one of the biggest tournaments, getting ready to host. And all of a sudden, an NBA player gets COVID, and Tom Hanks, announces his, and the world changes right before our very eyes. We're sent home. At that time, I had 8 speaking engagements on the books and a couple of my workshops on the books. All of those were at that point either postponed or canceled. And we just didn't know where we were going to go. At that point, back in March, I didn't have the finished product of the book as far as it being written from a manuscript standpoint. And it actually helped me, to be honest. It gave me a chapter toward the end of the book to talk about what I was dealing with, but it also just kind of a light bulb went off in my head. And when you come up with the title of "Can You Get Our Attention," which is what I did, and standing out, I think there's a whole lot of people in this pandemic situation that we're all facing who are either sitting on the sidelines waiting for their next opportunity, or questioning themselves, or questioning their business. What are they going to be doing in 6 months? Is their business going to be around in 6 months? And I think we all have to find a way to continue to evolve and get better and kind of build a bigger toolbox, if you will. And I think that's what this book allows some people, if they read it, to do. They'll find out what's important. They'll find out how they need to stand out for their next job interview, or the importance of differentiating yourself from the people that are in your peer group or your industry, and how you can set yourself apart. Because at the end of the day, we live in this world of great distraction and a whole lot of messaging and a whole lot of conversation. The question becomes, can you actually get people with all that noise? Can you get people to pay attention to you? Can you set yourself apart? Can you differentiate yourself and make you somebody worth following or hiring or listening to? And that's really what's in this thing.
And that's especially relevant. I mean, it's relevant all the time, but it's especially relevant now because everything is different. You have to be able to do those things in a different way because so many things are online right now. And even with our own Zoom into Books program at Headline Books, you know, that was the company's response to what's happening. And as I mentioned, we do have Kathy on with us who can talk a little bit about, you know, how that transition has happened with Headline Books and how it's benefited our authors, which is fabulous. And again, like, we're so excited that we're able to continue on with our business in this new way. But like you said, it's being able to present your best self despite all circumstances.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. And we started Zoom into Books the 1st of April, really by the seat of our pants. And from April 1st to today, we've probably interviewed 175 authors. So it's helped us get through the pandemic, and it worked out for you, Kraig, very well because you were able to take some extra time to write your book, and you have such a varied background. I'd like for you to tell people you were at with the Golf Channel just at the very beginning, were you not?
Yeah, I was really fortunate, Kathy, and I tell the story from my childhood days all the way up until now. And the reason I share my story, and that was one of the concepts of the book, was I felt like if I'm going to teach people or talk to people about the importance of sharing your story and being transparent and vulnerable and connecting with other people to help build your business or whatever it is that you do, I felt like, how can I do that if I don't share my own story? And I am that kid that grew up in Chicago in the suburbs on a 2-story house that knew exactly what I wanted to do at age eight years old. I just wanted to be a sportscaster. And I talk about that, you know, the Bulls, the Bears, the White Sox, the Blackhawks, all those teams were my teams. And my parents had gotten me a tape recorder and a microphone at a young age. And I used to sit in my room with my door closed. I had orange shag carpeting, by the way. It was really cool. And I would do play-by-play of my own games. And I was also the kid that wouldn't go to sleep at night either. I'd be underneath the sheets with the transistor radio listening to the great broadcasts of games. And then my buddies would come over and I would let them be a part of it. But I was the play-by-play guy on all the games that I did. And so I knew at a young age that's what I wanted to do. And I would call local sportscasters in Chicago and ask them how they got where they are. And I broadcast some games on the radio in high school. I quit the basketball team my senior year. We were very good. I wasn't going to play as much as I had hoped for. And I knew where I wanted to go. And I'd never quit anything in my life until that point. And I do remember that like it was yesterday, talking to the coach and Then I went to college to be a broadcaster. I went to the University of Missouri, which has a renowned, we like to think it's the best. Some people argue that if they went to Syracuse or Florida or somewhere else. But I went there because they had an affiliate TV station that was owned by the university. And so I worked at the TV station my junior and senior year. And then I went to Columbus, Georgia for a year, a little over a year. I went to Fort Myers, Florida. So if you're a college football fan, Reese Davis from ESPN was in Columbus when I was in Columbus. He was at the other station. If you follow the Today Show, Hoda Kotb was my co-anchor in Fort Myers when I got to do some shows. And then I went to Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo. And then I got this amazing opportunity to go to the Golf Channel at the end of 1994 and be there for the launch in 1995. And I was forever blessed for that opportunity. To this day, I still pinch myself that I got to be a part of something that Arnold Palmer and Joe Gibbs were able to found. And we launched January 17th, 1995. And I was one of the original 6 on-air personalities in the studio and spent 17, 18 years there and loved every bit of it. I mean, it landed me a trip to the White House. I got to interview 5 presidents. I mean, I flew in a plane with Arnold Palmer. There are just things that happen from traveling the world covering golf. But I admit, Kathy, that I started to get burned out, and I went from doing 1 show a day to doing 3 shows a day and traveling. And lo and behold, I got this opportunity to go to the LPGA to be the chief communications officer. And I never would have thought an opportunity like that to be in the C-suite at a major professional sports organization would come my way. And so I jumped, and I left that dream career to stretch myself and spread my wings a little bit and do something that I didn't even know how well I would do, or if I could be successful at it, or if I could make a difference. But I do know that when I was at the Golf Channel, I was asking myself, am I just making another show, or am I making a difference? And when I started to question myself, that's when I started writing blogs and doing different things and trying to figure out what my next might be, and started thinking about pivots. And one led to another, which led to another, which led to me having my own business now and traveling, well, not as much, but doing my thing and then writing a book.
You took a major leap to make a career change that a lot of people never do.
Yeah.
A lot of times opportunities will come along, and it's a tough decision. And I remember that part of your book, you can tell that, I mean, you had a complete change of life there.
Yeah.
And, but you knew what you wanted from a very young age, and not so many people have that luxury. Some people discover that late in life rather than early. Mm-hmm. So you have kind of been everywhere and done everything, and now you have your own business. It's called Kraig Kann Advisory. Mm-hmm. So after this fantastic career you've had, you have decided to help other people be successful at the things they want to do too. So would you like to tell us about that?
Well, you know, you bring up a great point about, you know, making a pivot that some people would be afraid to do. And I'm not going to lie, I was nervous too. I had a lot of soul searching to do, and I asked myself a lot of questions about what I was going to do next. And the LPGA was a dramatic jump for me to go from traveling to golf tournaments and travel to different golf tournaments. But the LPGA was a global thing, and I was all over the world representing the brand and talking about the organization and its athletes and membership and all of that. And I admit that when I was there toward the last couple of years, getting ready for the Olympics in Rio, that I started thinking, you know, I was doing some coaching and some media training things and some workshops in a smaller fashion, but I really enjoyed it. And so I was in my head kind of processing, could I do this for real? And could I really make something of that? And could I take all my experiences and share with other people? And ultimately what I fell on was starting Kann Advisory Group. And by the way, I had 0 speaking engagements when I started it. I got really lucky with a couple of them. One was actually through the Golf Channel. And another one was a buddy of mine who was at SAP and invited me to do a keynote for their marketing team. And so a lot of my talks were centered around communication, or the idea of executives having executive presence and communication skills, and the value that comes from being able to present not only your message, your story, your brand, your company, but present the best of yourself. And that's where I started focusing on it. And so I developed this leadership workshop called the Elevate Workshop. My company, Kann Advisory Group, our little tagline is elevating communication. So I just feel like a lot of people, they feel like they have something great to sell, but they're not great at standing there or talking on the phone or presenting that story that will connect with somebody to get them to buy. And we don't buy products first, we buy people first. And so my workshop is centered around leadership communication. And I do coaching on that as well, but I dig deep with people to figure out their strengths and weaknesses. And I tell people this all the time. I'm not going to make you, if I was working with you, Kathy, the best public speaker in the world. And I'm not going to make you the best presenter in the world, but I will promise you that I have the ability to make you your best presenter and your best public speaker based on the skill sets and the things that we talk about and the experiences, if people learn to become a master storyteller. Because that's what creates connection, that's what creates a following, and that's what I talk about a lot in the book. So I love being able to stand, well, I love being in front of an audience, but not everybody has that opportunity. You know, you don't know, not everybody gets tapped on the shoulder to be that. So you have to embrace it, and you have to love it, and you have to want to make a difference for other people. And that's what I enjoy doing, is to see people get that confidence to be able to stand up there and have an audience's engagement.
It's such an important thing. And now that we have, once again, we're locked down due to COVID, people are not able to engage with an audience. And there's been so many businesses that have actually been shut or working part-time, like a lot of businesses are.
Mm-hmm.
I think your book is very timely in that way. I first started talking to Kraig in January last year, and we had no idea.
No.
We were talking about a late summer release, then we were talking about a fall release.
Yeah.
And now here it is a year later. But I would like for you to tell people, maybe read some tips, or if you have a selection from your book you'd like to share.
Yeah. So here's a couple of the things that I think stand out in the book itself. And I'm just gonna show you one. But within the book, I do a lot of Kraig's lists. Okay, and you know that because you saw me send you 22 of them or whatever they are. But what they are is, I'm big on three things. You know, we can't remember 10, but we can remember 3. And so I talk about various topics. So this one's just 3 things: keys to earned media, and relationships, involvement, and merchandise. And then I'll add a little bit something else about it. But I do a bunch of those 3 things to understand about the media. And I talk to people about the value that comes from being able to engage with the media. The book in itself is not all about my media career. Okay, it is about presentation skills. Here's 3 things to planning your next presentation. The first 8 seconds are key. By the way, the average attention span of a human being is 8 seconds. That's not a lot of time. So you don't have a ton of time to get people's attention. And I talk a lot about the 3 H's: hook them, hold them, and then if you do that, you'll have them at the end. And those are the kinds of things I try to put, like mental images in people's thoughts about the importance of messaging and all of that. Here's 3 things, top traits for top professional brands. And so within the book, I do a lot of that, and I try to keep it very simple. I don't have like 20 case studies within the book. I've worked with a lot of really big companies: Accenture, Transamerica, Diamond Resorts, Titleist. I've worked with resorts like Pinehurst. I've worked with mid-sized companies like Concero or White & Company, that's an architecture firm. I've spoken, as I said, at SAP. I've worked with KPMG. the PGA of America, if you tie it to golf. So a lot of different companies, but it all boils down, Kathy, to people being able to stand out amidst a lot of competition and get noticed. And I firmly believe that we can't wait for people to take notice of us or our company or our product. We have to do things that make people take notice. And if I was going to say the one case study that is probably the most important in the book, it's my time at the LPGA. Because when I got there in 2011, the LPGA was not in a great spot. And that's why I took the job. I felt like I had the opportunity to help the commissioner, Mike Wan, take the organization and go in a northerly path. And I was really excited about that. There were only 24 events on the schedule at that time. And when I left 5 years later, there were 33. And the prize money had gone up by about $20 million. And television had gone from much of it tape delayed to a lot of it live. And a lot of things changed. So I think there's an importance in sharing some of those stories about how do you pull people together to raise awareness for an organization or raise awareness for a brand and get people to follow it. And you have to create influencers. You have to create groups of people that will help you. And today, I think you would understand this. Not too many companies, small size or individual entrepreneurs, have $2 million to throw at a marketing campaign. But we can create word of mouth marketing. And I talk a lot about that in the book, about how valuable that is to get people to be on your side, to hear your message, and to go tell somebody else, hey, you should have been there. What does it take to do that? What does it take to get people excited about what you say? And I think that's important for everybody. You mentioned the pandemic and the situation we're all in right now. Hey, I think we all need a little word of mouth marketing. I think we all need people on our side. And we need a bunch of Paul Revere's riding around on a horse, waving a flag, talking about the great things that we do, just as you would for your business and trying to recruit more authors to come your way.
That's true. And I was just thinking too, we've talked a lot about business and products, and social media really has been it this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing virtual book signings, we're doing virtual school visits, book clubs. And I know that you do keynote speaking, and you've been doing that virtually too, haven't you?
Yeah. And here's the thing about that too. This little camera that we're speaking into, and I just got done doing one today for insurance brokerage company, very big on the East Coast, and all of their employees on how to use this little camera. A lot of people believe it's an obligation. We're stuck. We're at home. We have to do virtual this and virtual that. And so I have this program called Become a Virtual Success over lunch. It's like a lunch and learn program, and it's only an hour and a half. But I give people the concepts of how to take this little camera and make it your friend, because really what it is it's your opportunity. It's your new business window, and that's where your audience is. And you can't always see them, but you still have to connect with them. And a lot of people are used to one-on-one business lunches or meetings or flying here and there. And now we're using this camera and a microphone, and we're doing things in a different way. And I don't think we're going back. And so I talk in the book about being an entrepreneur of your thoughts and your ideas. And I talk in the book about communicating in new ways, and the importance, as you point out, of social media and building a platform and sharing your success stories and sharing the success stories of others. All those things are important, but you have to find a way to engage in different ways than before. Look, I can't wait to be on the stage again for 500, before 500 people, talking about this book or my next stories or whatever, my workshops, all that stuff. I mean, I can't wait for that. But for now, we have to do it this way. And so what I'm trying to teach people and help CEOs and executives is to find their voice in a new way and find their way to bigger business and better business in this new way, and have this camera not be there just because it has to be there, but making it a competitive advantage for a company. How do you use it strategically? How do you build content that you put on your PowerPoint slide or whatever it is you're putting in front of people, but actually delivering it in a way that is engaging and where people really fall in love with you, if you will, through this little small camera when they can't be there in person. I love it. I love the challenge of it. I'm one of those guys. I've always been that way. Go ahead, put my back against the wall. That's fine. You know, my butt's been through the drywall before, and I've found my way out of it. And I enjoy the challenge of finding new things and pivoting into new directions.
It is like having your own personal TV studio. And I know you do media training. You know, we do a training for authors who are going to be on TV. Most of them say they have faces for radio, not for TV. But radio and TV are very similar. You've got to know your stuff. You've got to be on cue for sure. And I know this is part of the process that you use and you talk about in your books.
Mm-hmm.
We are finding that we did the American Library Association conference in Washington, D.C. 2019. They didn't have it this year.
Yeah.
And they had a sound pavilion. So we were able to do 15-minute interviews with the authors. And then that went into a blog. And I'd like for you to talk a little bit about blogs, because I think to a lot of people, it's a new thing, even though it's been around for a while.
Well, I'm going to build your business by my answer on this thing, because I'm going to tell you how my book came about in the first place. In 2009, and I share this story inside the book, I was sitting in the Golf Channel studio during a rain delay of a golf tournament. So we were delayed for our show. And I was saying to myself, you know, I've got 2 hours to kill. What am I going to do sitting here right now? And I said, I'm going to start a blog. And so it was at that exact moment that I started a blog, and I started writing down things. But when I wrote the blog, every blog post, I focused on my strengths, my wheelhouse, whether it be presentation skills or public speaking or marketing or branding or communication or social media. Technically all the topics that you know are in this book. And I wrote about 150 blog posts that I posted over a period of 4 years or so. But when I wrote those blog posts, I did it with a purpose. I wanted each of the posts to be a potential chapter of a book, so that if I ever was going to write the book that I talked about way when I was younger, I already had a lot of the content. Now I would have to update and tweak here and there, you know, obviously some things change or whatever it might be. But when I was writing the book, I did have some of those stories and I did have some of that content. And so therefore, I think when I was pitching my concept to you, I already had a lot of it in my head. I had to lay it out and people say, what was your process and all of that? So blogging is a completely unique, and I say unique, YOUNIQUE, opportunity for people to share their story, to share more about them, and be a little bit more transparent and showcase some of their experiences, positive and negative, and all of that. And to me, that's what authentic is. It's about actually getting people to see you for who you are. And I loved writing the blog, and the blog is a big part of where this book is right now. So I would advise anybody, and we have the time, right? I mean, now in this pandemic, we're able to sit in a room because we're not traveling, because we're not doing things the way we did, and have some quiet time. And I believe some of that time spent reflecting on yourself and figuring out where your strengths are and where you can get better are very valuable. And I think a blog would be a great opportunity for people. Then they can become authors, and then they can call you, and then you can help them write their book just like you helped me write mine.
Sometimes that all comes together.
Yeah, it does.
It works out very well. I know that with this time that we've had, part of the problems we've had to overcome is no events. We do a lot of events, have you and the other authors in the booth, and people love to come and meet the authors. But what we have found out through Zoom and virtual book signings and interviews like this is that people really get to know the backstory, and they get to feel like they know you. And I think when you were talking about a blog, it's people want a piece of you. They want to know your history and that, you know, you've overcome maybe some of the same problems that they have. And people have really enjoyed getting to know the authors this way. And I know that libraries are now starting to have the authors in virtually. So that is one big advantage of what we're doing now, as you said, and it's not going to go away. We will continue to do it this way and hopefully get to do the in-person events too. But I know you have some things coming up. Hopefully you want to tell us about that?
Well, number one, I would say that I was really looking forward to the opportunity to go to Chicago for one of your events. That's my hometown. There was another time you and I had talked about a book launch being right around the U.S. Open, which would have been, you know, Father's Day. And I spent many U.S. Opens away from my kids and, you know, tied to golf and U.S. Opens and so forth. And all of those opportunities have kind of gone by the wayside temporarily. And so too have some of those talks. But, you know, just over the last few months, I've gotten more and more calls about sharing my story and my message and helping companies. And I really believe this thing that I did, you know, today as an example, and we're working with a Fortune 100 company right now, me and a partner of mine, training them on how to use this camera, how to build better content, more engaging presentations for their people, and give them, you know, the ways to choreograph a presentation when you're pitching or promoting or hoping to gain new business. So I've got some companies that I'm about to start working with. I've got one that I am working with right now that's taken up a lot of time. Just over the next 1 week, I've got 15 webinars with the same company for more than 150 of their employees, where I'm coaching them on how to present their story, their message, and their product. So I really look forward to that stuff. You know, I think, you know, I've got multiple keynotes. I've got 3 or 4 different ones that I do. I'm gonna have to build a new one now. I've already figured out I'm gonna have to get something that's tied directly to this book that I'm gonna be able to go and speak on. So you know, that's in the works as well. And that takes time. I mean, there isn't a presentation that I come up with that I just do off the cuff for the most part. So I've got some work to do, but I'll be honest, the pandemic itself, while terrible, and we've all been, you know, probably battling some states of depression and frustration for sure, and challenges economically and all of that, it has given us time. And we are a society, as you know, I'm going a little deep here, but, you know, how many times have you heard people say, I just don't have enough time? Or I can't do it because I'm too busy. Well, you don't have an excuse anymore. You've got time spent with your family. You've got time spent for yourself if you so choose. And for me, it's helped me to finish the book. It's helped me through the proofreading part, which I'm sure were ready to wring my neck on more than a few occasions for the number of proofreadings that I did on the book. But, you know, I think the best is yet to come. And as I said at the beginning of this, I wrote this book not to get big money or big royalties. I wrote it to sell a lot of copies to a lot of people and get them, I hope, when they see this, it grabs their attention. And I hope they'll thumb through it and actually say, wow, this has got some stuff and some testimonials that will actually help me help myself, because that's what the book is all about, is presenting the best you. And in this time that we're all in right now, that's what everybody's faced with. How do we present ourselves better? How do we make ourselves more marketable? How do we get people to take notice of what we do? How do we share our story? And I can't wait to get back out there doing it. I'm really excited about it.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I also wanted to not gloss over the fact that this book is geared toward businesses and presenting you and your product and your skills to the best of your ability. But I think it's also an excellent book for students, for high school students, college students. I mean, everybody has to get up and present something sometime. And if you can get the confidence from a book like yours, they will go much further. I mean, a lot of people have had no public speaking experience. And I think the book is full of tips if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, well, first off, the number one fear among all Americans in a survey is public speaking, and number two is death. To me, that makes me laugh every time I hear it, because basically what it says is people would rather be buried underground than be above ground talking about their life before they got buried underground. I think they need to die for the opportunity to speak, because some people never get the chance. And as I talk about in my workshops, you know, we've all probably sold or bought a house from time to time, and a realtor comes and puts a for sale sign in front of the house. Well, standing in front of an audience is prime real estate, and there should be a for sale sign in front of each person that gets that opportunity, because it's a chance to sell their brand, it's a chance to sell a product, but most importantly, it's a chance to sell themselves as their own personal and professional brand. And a lot of people are very afraid of that. And I say, no way. You've got to be able to stretch yourself and get out there. You know, Warren Buffett says, and he's made a few dollars in his lifetime, that the number one skill that everybody should strive to improve on that can change your economic value by 50% is public speaking and communication. There's also another study by Dale Carnegie that suggests that 85% of your wealth comes from the ability to successfully communicate. Only 15% comes from the trade or the knowledge that you've built, the schooling that you had. So at the end of the day, we are nothing without the ability to share our message and raise awareness. That is our job. And we are all salespeople. We have to be able to sell ourselves. And so I share a lot of tips about what to do before you ever get the stage, how to take the word anxiety and turn it into anxious, because those are two very different words. And if you can gear yourself up for the potential for great outcome from talking in front of a group, as opposed to the fear of failure, you're in a much different place. We all get butterflies. Look, I'll be honest with you. I had butterflies before we started this thing today. That's what we all do. Can we get those butterflies to fly in unison? That's what's the most important thing. And I help coach people on those moments and how to succeed on a stage, because that's at the end of the day what everybody wants. They want to see somebody that can do it. And I love coaching that. I love getting in the weeds with people and helping them learn their story that they're gonna share, and how to connect with other people, and what it can do for not only their company, but most importantly, what it can do for themselves, their self-confidence, and their ability to really do something special in their own life and in their own career.
That's true. And one of the key things I've always thought is that nobody's going to tell people about you but you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't think you're good, if you don't think you're the best, nobody else is going to do that for you.
Yeah.
So
no, you're right. Let me just say something about that. We are the chief marketing officer or the chief communications officer of our own brand. Nobody else has the time, and nobody else has the energy. I'm not to say here that we're a selfish society, but the bottom line is we care most about ourselves and where we're going. We want to give back to others, but a lot of people don't have the proper mindset in that. And it's really important to realize that the more that you share, or the more you're willing to share, the bigger your brand will become. The less you share, the more afraid you are to put it out there for people to consume, the more anonymous your brand will always remain. So it's a choice. And the first thing that has to happen is people have to believe that their story is worthy, and that people will care to read about it or hear about it. But you do have to have a message, and you do have to have a story worth following. And that takes some time to build and think about. I do a lot of individual consulting and coaching as well. And a lot of people are very afraid. They don't like to talk about themselves. And I get that, because it sounds like you're bragging. But if you don't toot your own horn, Kathy, there's no noise. Okay?
That's right. That's right. There is one great example in your book where you're speaking, and I think you have 2 or 3 people stand up and you ask them, tell me about you. Would you tell people about that? That's a great story.
Yeah, so at the beginning of my talks, and I'm giving a little bit of it away here, because if somebody brings me in, I kind of do the same thing every time, and I do it for a reason. I'll bring somebody up in front of the group, and I ask them to tell the audience who they are and why we should care. And the look on somebody's face when I ask that question, you get the whole gamut, right? But most people are very, very uncomfortable with that question. They don't have the answer for who they are and the value that they bring. Now, when I ask them that question, I do it for two reasons. Number one is not to embarrass them. It's to put in front of them a question that everybody needs the answer for. But the second reason I do it is the minute I bring one person up there, I've got everybody in the room's attention. Thus, the book, Can You Get Our Attention? I get everybody in that room's attention, and they will sit on the edge of their seat in fear that I am going to bring them up next. And so I do that for those two reasons. I've brought CEOs up, I've brought coaches up, I've brought athletes up, I've brought anybody up, doesn't matter. And that's the reason for it. And it sets the table for the rest of the talk, the rest of the day, because at the end of the day, it is about them and their brand. And I tell them, when you walk in the room, you came in here as one person. I promise you, when you walk out of the room, out of my talk, which is not a talk, I call it an experience, your head will be spinning and you will be thinking differently about the impact you can make and the value that you bring. But you have to have an open mind, and you have to be able to listen to some concepts that might be a little bit uncomfortable for you to embrace.
That's so true. When I read that initially in your book, the first thing that popped into my mind is, how long do I have?
Well, I don't tell people that. I don't tell people. By the way, I clearly have the blinds in my office turned in the wrong direction, so I apologize for the little bit of darkness in here. But you know, I tell people you've got to embrace it. I don't tell you you've got a minute. I don't tell you you've got 3 minutes. I don't tell you you have 5. Now, if you do 20, I'm going to pull you off the stage. Okay. I don't have that kind of time. They've only given me 50 minutes or an hour for my keynote anyway. But I let people go wherever they want to go. And if they don't want to go there, that's on them to figure it out. If somebody says, Kraig, who are you? Right. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm an elevator. And they're going to say, what? I say, yeah, I'm an elevator. I elevate people to become better. I elevate brands to become bigger. And I elevate events to become grander. If you bring me in, I'm going to make sure that the folks in that room will have an experience that will get them talking. And if you come into my workshop, I call it the Elevate Workshop, but I say, we get people talking. And they say, what do you mean by that? I said, well, I'm going to coach you on how to be a great speaker, or the best speaker you can be. And in doing so, you're going to have the ability to have a speech that's compelling, or a talk that's compelling, that will get the people in your audience to go tell other people that they should have been there. And they'll talk about you. And that speaks back to word of mouth marketing. So I think those things are, really important. And if I was going to share a message with people, who are, oh boy, I don't want to take part in anything that has to do with public speaking, I'm too nervous about this. Ask yourself if the experienced sailor of a ship, ever got that experience through calm seas. That isn't how it works. Our greatest experiences, our greatest success stories come from outside of our comfort zone, and people need to push themselves in there to grow. And that's one of the challenges that I have in the book, is to build your brand and build a better you. And it takes work, and it involves some difficult questions as well.
Well, Kraig, our time is up. You've answered a lot of questions that we've had. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your book. And I want to remind people, today is the release date. The timing's perfect. The links to purchase the book are in the Facebook comment feed. The link to Kraig's website's there. You can go there and get a book. Learn more about Kraig, his schedule, and he's also available for speaking engagements. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the Facebook feed. We'll be checking back from time to time. And we hope you enjoyed today. And Kraig, I can't thank you enough, and I hope you'll come back soon.
I'll come back anytime you want me to, Kathy. You've helped me so much in this whole process, and you know, I've learned more about what it takes to write a book, and hopefully my next one will be better even than the first one, because I will have learned some things. But I'm really proud of this thing, and I really believe some people can get help. But I want to thank you for helping me through it. I've learned a lot about not just that, but also about myself, and I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for this, and I hope everybody goes to your website and Amazon and to wherever to get this thing, and I will find a way. You'll help me find a way to sign it for people and get them what they're looking for. And I can't wait till we get to go on the traveling road show together, whatever it takes. And I'll do more of these Zoom things for you too.
Well, thank you. You know, we're still kind of waiting to hear if ALA is going to be in Chicago the end of June. So we'll kind of wait and see about that.
All right.
But thank you again. Thank you
you.
everyone for joining us on Facebook. And I hope you'll join us on Zoom into Books again.